Well, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy schedule to view this webinar. We've had some very, very, very good feedback from it over the years. And I think probably part of the feedback that I get from people is that there's so much good technical information that Howard presents here that just getting it in one setting and trying to be able to digest it becomes somewhat impossible. So I see that multiple times people will view this webinar with the hopes of trying to glean a certain amount of information or a piece of information more in depth each and every time. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jason Spangler. I'm the division manager here for flooring at Wagner Meters. I'm responsible for not only the Rapid RH side of stuff for concrete moisture testing, but I'm also responsible for the small line of pan meters for testing wood subfloor and finished wood product. We're going to go through a Q&A here. If for whatever reason you either don't get to your question or you think of a question after the fact, please don't hesitate to contact me directly or just drop me an email. My direct contact information is phone number 800-634-9961 extension 235. So without any further ado, we'll look at what questions we have. One of the questions that I get a lot, or I have over the years, is how do I know, because 40% if it's drying from one side or 20% if it's drying from two sides is so critical as far as the depth of the hole for installing the sensor, how do I know how thick the slab is? And I mean, the first thing is there's a couple of different ways. Obviously, as people become more accustomed to having to find out how thick a slab is, they find additional ways. But a couple of ways that people do it now. New construction, you're looking at construction documents. You're talking to the superintendents. The revamp projects, you're looking at, or the rehab projects, you're looking at trenching where they've had to trench to put new plumbing in, trying to look at that. When you're looking at elevated floors, a lot of times people will look where the penetrations come through the decking material, because usually the cutouts will be quite a bit larger than what the actual penetration is. And so you can kind of see what the profile of that slab is, or of the elevated portion of it in that situation. Another way that people are doing it is that in the last few years, they've come up with the ability to be able to electronically be able to scan the surface of the concrete, use it integrated with your iPad or other type of tablet device, and be able to see how thick the slab is without having to actually be intrusive into the slab or destructive into the slab. Positives and negatives. Positive, obviously, it's not as invasive, or it's not invasive, period. Downside to it is it's plus or minus. It's actually fairly good, I believe. Don't quote me on it, but I believe it's plus or minus a half an inch as far as accuracy goes. But the biggest downside to it, I would say, probably at this point, at least for most people, is the fact that last time I checked, it was still in excess of $2,000 for that device. So unless you're doing hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of tests a year, it really does become very cost prohibitive to have a device like that. So what you see people do out in the field is they'll actually take a smaller diameter drill bit. They'll pick a couple spots on the floor, usually opposite ends of the building, to be able to get comparative information to ensure there isn't, drastic variances from point A to point B. By no means are they turning the slab into Swiss cheese, but what they're doing is they're taking a small diameter drill bit, they're going all the way through the slab, usually taking a piece of wire, putting a J-hook in it, pushing that through the bottom of the hole, pulling it up until they feel resistance, marking it off, and then looking at the radius of the J versus where the Sharpie mark is at on the wire, and being able to get a pretty good approximation of how thick the slab is. Perfect? No. But definitely when they look at it in most situations, people feel that it's more than adequate for what they're trying to do. Second thing that I hear people talk about is on a elevated slab in a pan deck, how do I know, A, how thick the slab is, but then once I have that, how do I know where to drill? In other words, you have highs and you have lows in the pan decking. Some people think that you should calculate your 40% based on the thinnest portions. Some people think the thickest portions. Some people think there's some kind of happy medium between the two of them. So first thing is, I have to say, the ASTM standard is completely silent on how to determine what the appropriate thickness to base your drill depth upon when it comes to pan decking. So then we look at, a couple of the different ways that people are doing stuff out there. Probably the most predominant way that people are doing it, and the way that we recommend, is that you do your best to try to identify where the thickest portion of that slab is, and then calculate your drill depth based on that thickest portion. So if you have a situation where the thin part is 2.5 inches, the thick part is 5.5 inches, we recommend that you calculate your drill depth based on 40% of 5.5 inches, and then try to determine where that thickest part's at. So the question is, how do I do that? I have some people that will actually drill a couple of different pilot holes to try to center up and find out where that deep trough is at. Once they do that, then they'll just measure off center from that across the room if that's what they want to do. I have other people that will actually that have purchased fairly inexpensive, less than $100 metal detectors that look and function a lot like wood stud finders, so that you put them on the floor and they have a strong enough current in them to be able, or signal in them to be able to identify the high parts of the metal. So you can scan across, pick that up, scan across more, pick that up. Now you have the two high spots and you can drill right in the middle of it. Some pretty good feedback. It's not perfect with that either, but it's definitely an option that quite a few people have gone to make it easier to identify that area. And hopefully at some point there'll be some kind of guidance from the ASTM committee that will be able to have a little bit better understanding of exactly how to do that a little bit easier. But until then, that's what we have. Well, it looks like I don't have any further questions. Oh, I did have one come in. Sorry about that. Can tile flooring in general be installed on high RH concrete slabs, say 95 to 100% RH? Also, is the moisture vapor emission, if the moisture vapor emission is allowed to breathe through the tile mortar bed and through the grout joints, does that mean that the covered equilibrium RH of the concrete can be less than the value of the 40% of slab depth? Well, so the first thing is tile, it seems like most people think it's bulletproof. And again, I'm not saying that it's not more moisture resistant, but the part of the problem with tile, at least what it has been as of late, is the fact that we've progressively gone from, a typical 9x9 or a 12x12 with a 1/4 inch grout line. We've actually gone to, say, a 24x24, 24x36, or 18x24 size tile, and smaller grout lines. So you start to lose some of that quote unquote breathability because the grout lines are diminishing and the format of the tile is getting bigger. You'll have people that will talk about, there are products on the market that are, crack suppression membranes that do act as a quote unquote vapor barrier also. And there are some different options for that. But as far as testing goes, you're still doing it per the ASTM standard. And no matter what the situation is, the standard says 40%. So the second part of your question, do you alter that 40%? If the specifications call for ASTM F2170 to do it per the standard, you're going at 40% of whatever the actual thickness of the slab is. So I hope that answers your question. Again, my name is Jason Spangler. My direct contact information is 800-634-9961, extension 235. If you think of any other questions later or even down the road, please jot the number down and feel free to give us a call. That's what we're here for. Thanks and have a great day.